All right. Welcome, everybody, to a vaguely familiar podcast, the Real Time Podcast. Um, Today, we are reviewing The Batman, full spoilers. My name is Nazar Sayed. With me is my brother Bashaar. And truly apologies to Hassan Minaj, who couldn't show up to the podcast today because we were reviewing Batman. But it's a beautiful day, man. You know why? It's a beautiful, dark day.
It's a beautiful night.
It's a beautiful night.
And
There's a lot of really positive things happening tonight. Number one, we just saw The Batman. So obviously that's like every time there's a new Batman movie or a new iteration of Batman, we're invested. But it's also the first test match between Australia and Pakistan man.
absolutely lots of stuff happening. I think, fair to say we just walked out of the Batman.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of mixed emotions. I wasn't sure if I should discuss the movie with you walking out
Why
of
not?
the theaters. I don't know, because I wanted to get like our, no pun intended, on the wing of the podcast, but your real-time reaction.
Yeah, so we didn't talk about anything.
No, we haven't really
We
discussed
literally
much.
sat in the car, played like the big picture podcast, and just shut up.
Yeah.
And then we had dinner, and then we just now are sitting in front
Yeah.
of each other. So I don't even know what you thought about it. You don't know what I thought about it. I mean, there was little like leaks of emotion throughout because I was just very excited about this movie. But you sort of characteristically contained yourself, which is it's a very Bashaar thing to do. So without further ado, man, let's just jump into it. This is a massive, massive, massive spoiler warning to everyone. It's in the title. It's in the description. You've seen it in big capital letters. This is a spoiler discussion. We're going heavy into what we liked, what we didn't like, what could have worked better, what was excellent, the ending, the middle, everything, the twists, the turns, the deaths. We're gonna go into
The
it.
question marks.
Yeah, all of that. We're gonna answer it all. So this is your fair warning. If you made it to like the first 3 minutes of the podcast, tune out unless you don't give a shit. And if you've seen it, stick around because this is gonna be a bumpy ride.
Let's get into it.
Get into it.
Firstly, what did you think of Robert Pattinson as
Before all
Batman?
of that,
Okay,
I
okay.
want to know your
My thoughts on the movie?
thoughts on the movie. Your just unfiltered thoughts. You sat through 2 hours and 57 minutes of The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves. When you left the seat, how did you feel?
I felt I had no idea this movie was going to be this dark.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen previous Batmans. I've seen the animated series, and this is out of all the darkest that I've seen.
In what sense?
In the sense of the tone of the movie,
Mhm.
the themes,
Aesthetically,
aesthetically, musically, like
Yeah.
how it was
the score.
the score of the movie, and just how gory it was at times.
Yeah, it's a really,
I
really.
mean, before we watched the movie, you told me that this is, like, you heard other reviewers talk about how this
Yeah.
is a mix of Seven and
Prisoners.
and there's a bit of Mindhunter involved as well.
Yeah,
And after watching the movie, I can see how that connects.
yeah.
And also, the guy who played the Riddler was in Prisoners.
Oh yeah, that's true. I didn't. You know what? I connected that in the middle of the movie because throughout the movie you don't see the Riddler's face. You don't see his identity. It's. By the way, Riddler's costume design is amazing. He's completely leather masked up, and then the only thing that's like kind of human about him is his glasses.
And he's wearing clear glasses.
And he's wearing clear
Like
glasses
clear
on top.
lenses.
It's so like it's kind of iconic. I'd see how many people want to dress up as
Yeah.
Riddler on this Halloween, which is also funny because this movie takes place on Halloween.
Yeah. It starts off, it's the 31st of October.
Yeah.
And it's almost as if the Batman is talking in his diary, and he's also narrating the scene at the
Yeah.
same time.
Well, he is. He's right. Literally,
Yeah.
he's writing in his diary.
He's journaling. Yeah.
But yeah. So you thought the movie was very dark. What else did you think? If you,
I thought it also had a very long runtime,
okay,
and
you felt like it dragged.
I felt like it dragged. I felt at least 3 to 4 points in the movie where they could have just ended it, but they continued to keep going with it.
Okay.
And like, on a very, very, very serious note, the guy beside me was snoring. Like,
Really?
midway. I could hear him snore.
So you just edged him. I was worried that you were sleeping through
Yeah,
it.
I know you were checking up on
Because
me.
I was like,
and
"Are you like?" Because I would turn to like react on something that happened, like the car chase scene or the fighting scene or the twist when they actually like all of that, or when like Alfred blew up. I was like, "Yo, did you see that?" And you were just like, "Mm-hmm." I was like, "Is he like? I don't know what's happening. Is he like soaking it in? Because I'm losing my mind." Like a few of those things I called beforehand, and I was like, because it was leading up to. We'll get into it when we get into the plot, but the murders were leading up to Bruce Wayne, and I knew that Bruce Wayne is not going to be there because he's Batman and he's literally everywhere else. So it's gonna like Alfred is gonna bite it, and that whole sequence was amazing, by the way.
it was, yeah.
But what else? What else did you find about the movie that struck with you? You're not saying if it was good or bad. This is very diplomatic of you. I don't know why.
I thought it was okay.
Okay.
I
That's
like.
interesting.
I'm not sure if I would watch this again.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
On the first viewing itself, I thought it was a lot to take in,
Okay.
a lot to absorb.
Yeah.
Not saying that it was bad, but by any sense, but it was just a lot going on.
The thing that Chris Ryan said in the podcast that we were listening to on the way back was that it's really hard to have fun with Batman, especially when you come out of like Spider-Man recently, like in
Yeah.
December, and jump into Batman, which is like literally the opposite
It's
end.
it's the polar opposite.
Polar opposite movie. It's dark, it's dreary, it's traumatic.
At the same time, like, yeah, these might be things that I'm not fully enjoying, but at the same time, that's what Batman is.
Yeah.
You know, his story is of trauma. Is of horror.
The Dark Knight is a very traumatic movie.
It is.
It was so traumatic that it put Batman out of business, and it took him 9 years to come back in The Dark Knight Rises. Like that's
Yeah.
how these Batman stories go, man. He's not your friendly neighborhood spider. He's the guy whose parents were murdered in front of him, and to cope with that, this kid literally took up arms and became a vigilante in a New York style city.
Yeah.
So it's not supposed to be fun, and it's not supposed to be like, I don't know, uplifting, inspirational. I don't know. I thought it was all of those things. I was uplifted at the end and I was inspired at the end, but I know where you're coming from with the dark and dreary part. I will be very clear about this that I love this movie. Like I was giggling throughout the fighting scenes, the brutality, the violence. I was beaming. I love dark movies, man. Like Prisoners by Denis Villeneuve, which stars Jake Gyllenhaal,
Hugh Jackman.
Paul Dano, and Hugh Jackman. One of the most darkest movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I would watch it again.
Yeah.
Nocturnal Animals. Nocturnal Animals.
Absolutely.
We watched it again.
Actually, a movie directed by Matt Reeves, 10 Cloverfield Lane.
There we go.
We watched it in theaters, and we were
Beautiful.
like, "Wow, this man has made a movie that the whole setting is in a basement."
Yeah.
So we were on the edge of our seats.
Yeah, it was electrifying.
so
It was
thrilling,
electrifying. And there were moments I had throughout the Batman that made me feel like that. When the Batman, like I said previously, when the Batman realizes that, oh my God, I am the next target. Like I called it out. It was like, he's going for Bruce Wayne. Like he has to go for Bruce Wayne now. But Bruce Wayne isn't there. So who's there? Alfred. And then that whole scene makes you think that this is where the direction comes in, which was, by the way, the cinematography and the direction of this movie, masterful.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
Masterful. Like the way some of the shots were constructed, the way that Matt Reeves chose to tell the story, the slow walking boots, the rain, everything, like the neon signs. It was so dreary and dark. It sucked you in.
Yeah,
and
even the casting of the movie, like nobody felt out of place.
No,
and everybody put up a really great performance.
So the thing with that was when we get into the performance section, we'll talk about it a little bit more. But I was never a fan of Zoe Kravitz. I think she was in Fantastic Beasts 2, and that was the worst part of the movie for me. I've never seen her in anything else. I'm just not a fan. Like she gives me Zendaya vibes. I'm not a fan of Zendaya either. I loved her in this movie. She was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And like the only part that was stressing me out going into this movie was like I might not like her. I came out loving her.
Yeah.
I loved her character. I loved what she was going through. I loved her arc. This is as much of a Catwoman movie as it is a Batman movie, and that's not a bad thing. It's a really good thing. The story was great. The Riddler's final plan to blow up the city, was kind of underwhelming for me. I thought I liked it when it was just his his mentality.
Targets.
Yeah, no, I liked it when it was like Batman versus the Riddler, but then it quickly became the Riddler winning, and then the Batman had to like clean up the mess. It came up with some really good action scenes at the end on the Gotham Garden. What was it? Gotham City Garden, was it? Gotham Square Garden,
Yeah.
the GSG, I guess. And some crazy fight scenes there. Great choreography. You finally see the Batman's rage unleashed in that scene where Selena Kyle gets kicked and beat up, and he like just comes up insane. Like he probably would have killed that guy if Gordon hadn't butt in
Yeah.
and stopped that. It was lovely seeing that. Just the whole vibe of it. Like in the beginning of the movie, the city's unsure about Batman, and by the end, they embrace him, and he embraces the city.
You know, you mentioned this part, and then you also mentioned the cinematography. One of the first scenes is when the mayor gets murdered, and Batman walks into the crime scene. And I love how they shoot that scene because it's
Yeah.
from Batman's point of view, and you can see everybody, all the police officers are reacting to his entrance.
Yeah.
And then there's a point at the end of the movie where Batman is dragging a criminal, like in a similar scene, and people were the police officers were reacting in a similar way, but to the criminal, not to Batman. So they
Yeah.
kind of accepted him as
As one of his. And it's just like stuff like that, which I was just surprised at how much Batman we got in this movie.
a lot of it actually.
He's like Pattinson is Batman in this movie for like 90%.
Absolutely. That was also kind of like, I'm a fan of Bruce Wayne.
Really?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I mean, I like to see Bruce Wayne showing off his money,
Okay.
being with the girls, of how you imagine Bruce Wayne. But even the Bruce Wayne in this movie is very, very dark.
Dreary. Yeah, very traumatized by his past. Like he's still because he's the thing that we're forgetting about this Bruce Wayne and this Batman is he's a very young Batman.
Yeah, I think they make it a point to say at least 3 to 4 times in the movie that this is his second year
Yeah.
as Batman.
Yeah. What did you think about the voiceover choice that Matt Reeves chose in the beginning and at the end of the movie?
I liked it.
Right?
I liked
I feel
it
like
a lot,
it really
actually.
nicely bookended the movie. Like it starts with his thoughts and ends with his thoughts, and like I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it because his voiceover was so effectively done. It
Yeah.
gave you immediate context of where the story is taking place, and at the end, it gave you immediate closure.
Yeah.
It immediately, so much immediacy. It made you because I'm so excited about it. It made you feel the tug and push, the pull and push of the story. Like it was a proper wave that Batman was riding, and like at the end, he comes to his final point. He never gives up on the city.
I'm not sure exactly where we are in the review, but you mentioned this while you watched the movie a few times, how you could draw parallels from this movie to what's happening in Pakistan.
Yes,
A lot of the
Yes.
corruption, a lot of people who are
we're
there.
gonna get flack for this 100%.
Not even Pakistan, but you can say third world countries where there's
third world countries,
corruption
gang
is pretty
countries. You
big.
can even call this. You could see this stuff in Detroit.
yeah,
This is like a cities that are underdeveloped, that are run by the mafia, the mob, the
Yeah.
political system, where every politician, person of the establishment is under some mafia mob guy's
Yeah.
pocket, and
like the people out there, they want to make the change, but the system is so corrupt that
Yeah.
there's just barricades after barricades,
yeah, man, and
obstacles.
as this movie progressed and the layers were pulled off on everyone being a scumbag,
Yeah.
I loved that Batman could trust no one except Gordon, and Gordon could trust no one except Batman. Like those two were supposed to be together. Like that's one of my favorite combinations. Even in the Dark Knight trilogy, the Gordon and Batman aspect was so good, right? And like that iconic scene at the end of The Dark Knight Rises when he re-quotes Gordon from the first movie to tell him who he is,
Yeah.
right? When as he's flying off with the atom bomb, like stuff like that. You feel the push and pull of their relationship as well. Where like in a minute, Gordon has blind faith in this guy, but then he's also like eyeing him and making sure that he's not, the Riddler's accomplice and stuff like that. I loved it, man. Like Jeffrey Wright as Jim Gordon, great casting. I was also a bit wary about him because I've always seen him in like villainous roles, Like he was the guy from Source Code
Yeah.
that was keeping Jake Gyllenhaal in the tank,
Yeah.
right? Like I've always seen him in that kind of thing, that kind of stuff, but seeing him as Batman's number two, or seeing Batman as his number two sometimes was fun.
Speaking of Batman's number two, we also didn't get to see a lot of Alfred,
Yeah,
right? Like
I wanted to see more.
not a lot of wisdom that you usually get from an Alfred.
This Alfred seems like he's been through the trenches, man. Like he lets like while he's on the bed, he tells Batman like all I could do was teach you how to fight. So like Batman learned his stuff from Alfred. Like is that where we're going at? Like if this ever turns into a trilogy, I will bet a lot of money that we're gonna see a Alfred versus enemies fight scene, like a good 3 minute montage of just him beating people up because he's young.
Mhm.
Alfreds are getting like you know how Aunt Mays are getting younger and younger as
Yeah.
each Spider-Man franchise expands. Same thing with Alfred, man. We started with Mr.
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine. That's my horrible Michael Caine impression.
I won't bore you.
Yeah, and then buried enough members of the Wayne family. Like, that's what we started with, and then we got Scar as Alfred in the Batflick universe, and then we got Godzilla as
Oh, he was Godzilla.
yeah,
Oh.
bro. He was War of the Planet of the, he was the main monkey. What was the main monkey? Caesar? Yeah, he was Caesar in Planet of the Apes.
That makes sense because
He
Matt
was-
Reeves directed all those movies.
He was Godzilla. He was what else was he? A few other things. He was the one of the monkeys in the Coldplay video. He didn't direct them, but like he taught them how to walk and stuff like that in that Adventure of a Lifetime video. So he's been around like animals a lot. But seeing him just be him,
And now he's on the bat.
hey, you know, you can't keep the animalistic tendencies away from Andy Serkis.
Yeah.
But he was also Golem. Yeah, Golem. I forgot he was Golem in Lord of the Rings. Yeah, he just great performance. I would love to see more of him if there's ever a sequel. The weird thing about this movie is that it's so self-contained. Like if you tell me that we'll never ever see a Batman movie again from Robert Pattinson and Matt Reeves, I will be like, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah. Yeah. Like this could be a good standalone movie. There's no prequel required. Even if there's no sequel, it'll be fine.
Yeah, we know the story. We know how the Waynes get murdered, and we know that after that, this is what happens. Okay, fine. I would love to see what happens more. I would love to see a version of the Joker in this universe. I would love to see what the
I would
Penguin's
love
about.
to see what happened in the first year of Batman being Batman. Right.
You want to see a prequel?
Because there was so much contempt from the police officers. Like I want to know what did he do? Like what mistakes he made.
I mean, they show them quite blatantly actually in this movie where he's flying away from the police, and you're so used to like a superhero landing that when he gets hit by the bridge and then like by the car and then just rolling over, I'm like,
yeah, that's also like part of he's been through things. Like they show a few scenes where he's like putting a shirt on, taking a shirt off, and there's scars all over his body.
yeah,
So I guess that is some sort of context to what he's been through.
battle ridden.
That was a good scene, by the way, that you mentioned where he jumped off. And one of the things that I really liked about this movie was the gadgets that they showed. We were talking about this in the last podcast we did when we were talking about the best Batmans. And one of the gadgets that was so interesting was the camera on the iris.
Yes, the iris cameras. Yes, that was very interesting, and that explained a lot of why he was just observing. Like a lot of the reviews and a lot of the things that people were talking about was like Batman doesn't have a lot of dialogue in this movie.
He doesn't.
He doesn't talk a lot. He only talks when he needs to talk. And otherwise, what is he doing? He's just looking around. Okay, but why? And they made it interesting because when he's looking around, he's basically scanning and recording everything so he can look back.
He's IDing people.
He's IDing people. He's basically like figuring things out. He's collecting evidence, and he looks back onto it to be a better detective. This is the thing about this movie that I love, right? This is what the Joker did really well as well, the Todd Phillips Joker, which this reminded me a lot of because, like you said, that this is a good movie that you would not want to watch again because of how dark and how heavy it is. I've had the same feeling about the Joker,
Mm-hmm.
which was, it was an amazing movie. that I would only want to watch once, and I've only seen it once. Like I
Yes.
have not seen it again. Sometimes it comes up on YouTube, and I see the ending scene where he's on the talk show and he shoots Robert De Niro's character. That's cool and everything, but I can't see the 2 hours before that because it's heavy, it's dark.
Yeah.
I don't think the Batman is as dark as the Joker it was. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I can rewatch this movie a lot of times because there's action in this. The car chase scene, man, it was so good. When the
When
presence of the Batmobile,
yeah, I was gonna say
when it was revving up, oh my god, the sound design on that was amazing. I had goosebumps because
yeah.
I was like, it's here. Like we totally forgot. And the funny thing is, I was noticing this throughout the Batcave. Like they're doing stuff in the foreground. In the background, there's a car covered up.
Covered up, yeah.
And then after the reveal of the car, it's not covered up anymore. And I was like, that's good. You teased
Yeah.
me like that, and I like it, Matt Reeves. Yeah, it was just we're totally forgetting a very important integral part of the movie, which was the Penguin.
The Penguin.
Did you know the Penguin was Colin Farrell?
I found out after watching the movie. I went onto the cast and I was like, what? Like what? Seriously?
Tell me, was that not? Sorry, Noel Gallagher he just fell, but that was a amazing casting, and B, amazing execution, man. Like I didn't want to tell you, so I didn't know if you knew if Colin Farrell was Penguin or not, but I don't want to tell you because if you didn't, then I'd want to see your reaction. So your reaction to seeing Penguin and knowing that it's Colin Farrell is what?
Shock.
Shock.
I don't know how they pulled it off. If I knew that they were casting him as Penguin, like before watching the movie, I would have been like, what? I don't know how this guy fits into the role.
Completely.
But after watching it, I'm thankful that I'm not a casting director because I would never have done that.
You can't see that. Like they put a lot of prosthetic makeup, which is really good makeup because you can't tell.
Yeah.
And he does such a good job. He's like, hey, take it easy. Like all
Yeah.
that stuff. It's so much fun. And like he gave a really I mean the whole movie is dark, but he gave a quick comedic element to it too, like when he was being interrogated by Batman and Gordon and all that stuff. Just leaving him there. Like he gave a little flair to it.
Yeah. Not a lot of humor in this movie,
No,
but yeah,
not at all.
a bit of it that has been brought up is from him.
But you know what was cool about it? Some of it is like situational humor, which is just like if Batman was actually at a crime scene, like people would turn their heads and like when one of the detectives was trying to take like samples and he's like, do you mind?
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah.
and then Batman didn't even move, like stuff like that where it's like you put a unique person in a unique situation. How would that play out in front of normal people? I like that interaction, like him in the police station or him in the crime scenes and all that. Like that was cool to me. Like I've never seen Batman in that situation before. You usually see him, he's there, and then you turn around and he's gone.
Yeah.
Like, there were a few scenes like that,
Yeah.
but just
Where he's like coming out of the shadow.
bro.
He is the shadow.
Yeah.
And then
I like how they set that up too.
Yeah.
With the voiceover of him being like, I am the shadow. And then just you felt the fear initiated right from the beginning of the movie, where he's talking about how when they see the light in the sky, they get scared.
Did you feel like Batman and the Riddler here were kind of similar to how Joker and the Dark Knight were in that trilogy because of how the Riddler used Batman as a puppet to basically investigate, solve his puzzles, and try to find out what the next move is going to be. Did you think there were?
I think they were definitely trying to pay homage to the Joker with that interrogation scene, with him being behind in a jail, caught, and that's just not the end of my plan. There's more to it. I feel like after that scene, the movie kind of started to like unravel for me. I was hoping that the Riddler's master plan would be a little bit more divisive, like how the Joker's master plan was like, I'm going to put these two people in boats and see who blows the one or the other one up first.
Yeah.
And that's like, you put morality, ambiguity, you put a lot of those things in people's heads. And then during the Dark Knight, because we keep comparing it to the Dark Knight, because you're going to do that. Like this movie begs itself to be compared to the Dark Knight. And as an audience member, you're watching that movie and going, what would I do? Would I pull the trigger or would I wait? And
The
I
only
don't think.
scene where I felt like I was on the edge of my seat in the movie was when he was trying to get back to the Wayne Tower
Yeah.
and Alfred was opening the present up, and I was like, "Whoa, what the hell? No,
Are they gonna kill Alfred?
this is gonna go down." And even when Alfred threw away the bomb and it blew up, I thought he was dead. I didn't think he would have survived that.
Yeah.
Um,
No, but they sort of, in a cool way, showed that you could survive you can survive an explosion like that because of how literally Batman was holding Coulson by the collar, and Coulson blows up, and Batman survives that, right?
yeah,
They showed there was precedence that the bombs were not huge TNT blasts; they were just like small radius blasts. Um, but yeah, that was some of those scenes were extremely gripping, and yeah, just them paying homage to the Dark Knight. I don't know if they were doing this intentionally or not, but you could see that they were inspired by it. Obviously, with some of the best stuff from the Dark Knight. What did you think about Paul Dano's Riddler as the villain?
I thought he was good. Um, I
Don't compare it to the Joker. I know
no,
you're
I'm
gonna do
not
that.
comparing, but obviously that is the benchmark that we sort of compare it to now with any Joker performance, right? Even when Joaquin Phoenix did the Joker, everyone's like, "Oh, is it going to be better than Heath
But
Ledger or not?"
so that's the thing, right? So Joaquin's Joker is also phenomenal, also amazing, also one of the best performances of the past 20, 25 years. But it's vastly different from Heath Ledger's Joker, and it's fine. Like you don't have to be the same Joker, uh, or same character for it to be good. Like Joaquin and Heath Ledger showed that. Paul Dano's Riddler, though. What was that like for
I
you?
just felt like yeah, as an actor, yeah, it was some good acting by him, um, but the the way that his riddles played out, I felt like as an audience member, I wasn't able to crack any of those riddles on my own. It was only when the Batman was like, "Okay, this means that, this means that." That's when I was like, "Okay, now I feel like I'm part of it again."
Yeah, but like
There weren't
the
any hints that I was
the
catching.
way that they f- um, unraveled that or explained that was like he would say the riddle, you would have like a beat to think about it, and before you thought too much about it or got confused, Batman would tell you because he's the better detective. You're not Batman. You're wearing the shirt, but you ain't it, bro. Right? Like he's the guy.
I'm not wearing
And the
hockey
thing is, the
pads.
guy who's yeah, the guy whose life was at stake couldn't even get it either. And like literally, Batman was telling him all of the answers beforehand. So I think you, as a common person, that reaction was fine. But what else did you think about when you saw the Riddler? I personally was very invested in his thing, at least until he was like, "Oh, by the way, I'm going to flood the city." I was like, I like it when you were like fighting him psychologically. I don't
Yeah,
like it when you're going grand scale. I get why you're going grand scale, and I get you have these um what is it called, delusions that you and Batman are on the same team and you're a
yeah,
psychopath. Like I get all of that, and I like all of that. I like the Zodiac aspect of it. Like literally in one of the videos, he goes, "This is the Riddler speaking." And I immediately was like, yo, that's how the Zodiac talks. And like ciphers and all of that stuff was very cool to me. Even the Riddler's costume was very Zodiac inspired,
yeah.
right? Especially
With
that
the boots
scene,
and the gloves and
and the overall like everything was very the mask, the leather stuff was very Zodiac inspired, and I like that. Like I like that it was also green and it was also true to the character, but at the same time it was like very real and very grounded. Um,
one thing I noticed was that they were trying really hard to keep the red Batman theme going. Like, I think for 80 to 85% of scenes, you could see some sort of red light element
yeah, it
being
was
incorporated within the
it
scene.
was definitely a theme in the movie. Yeah.
And I think we're trying to do it here as well because we have a red light behind you.
Yeah, we always have this light, bro. It's the red and the blue. It's the fire versus the water. Like you're a Pisces, I'm a Leo. We got to do this. Brought astrology into this, guys. I did. I
Red
totally did
flag,
that.
red light.
Red light. But yeah, there was definitely like the themes because I liked how they kept the movie dark, but they illuminated the scenes with like neon lights and like flickering bulbs and like street lights and
Mhm.
all of that stuff. Sorry, it was aesthetically very pleasing
Yeah.
to me. And I like dark movies like that. Prisoners, I love like that because Prisoners, the entire movie, it's raining and it's dark and it's wet. And Jake Gyllenhaal is going from this place to that place, and there's a murder and there's kids involved. Like I love that stuff. Nocturnal Animals, dark as well. Uh, Zodiac, bro. Oh, sorry, not Zodiac. Seven. It's
Mhm.
raining in that entire movie. It's wet. It's dark. It's cloudy. It's dreary. Shout out to Scotland. Shout out to Glasgow, man. That city being UK being as dark and ominous as it is
Yeah.
really helped the vibe on this one.
Yeah.
And that last sequence where they're driving through the graveyard, that's the necropolis of Glasgow, which is one of the oldest graveyards and the biggest graveyards in the world. Like that's like at least like 700-800 years old.
You know a lot about Glasgow.
I've been, bro. I've been, and I love Glasgow, and you could definitely tell that especially the last entire scene on the bridge and everything, that was in all Glasgow, bro.
Yeah,
Scotland,
I was trying
you
to
did
see.
good.
I didn't know like where it was shot, so I was trying to see maybe if any of the scenes were shot in Toronto or not.
No. This whole sequence, this whole movie was shot in the UK,
Okay.
except for like exterior shots, um, of the city and those white shots of the city. Like all of the in-road shots was all the UK. So like yeah,
Who did you think? I thought in the end of the movie when the Riddler is in Arkham Asylum.
Yeah.
Um, at the end of it, I think he's speaking to the Joker only because of how the laugh was and how they were trying to sort of hide his face, and there was you could see some damage to his face.
that's the thing. So now I don't think that was the Joker. I would have my money on Harvey Dent or Two Face. That felt more like Two Face to me than it did like Joker. Because his hair, the guy that you're talking about that the Riddler talks to at the end, he's shadowed, right? You can't see his face, but you see a silhouette. And the hair is not long enough to be Joker. Joker has long hair, right? And this you don't see his face clearly, but you can see some marks on his face. And I feel like that's Harvey Dent. That has to be Two Face. They wouldn't do the Joker like that. I think at some point in this, if this franchise does go on, which I think it'll go on for sure, like Matt Reeves has already hinted that he's gonna start working on Batman 2 or whatever. They will have to introduce a Joker, but I don't think it'll be the next movie. It'll probably be the movie after that. And in some twisted way, I really want Joaquin Phoenix to come back as Joker, but I don't think he can because if you remember correctly in that movie, that movie's first he's set in like the 80s, right, or early 90s, and there's a kid Bruce Wayne in there.
Yeah.
So by the time Bruce Wayne becomes Batman, Joaquin is like what 65, 70. So
Yeah.
I don't think that's gonna happen. But I would love to see a Joker in this universe. This universe's Joker would be demented. He would be absolutely vile, and I would love to see that.
What did you think of Robert Pattinson as the Batman? Because we were talking a lot about previous Batmans and we were anticipating how this one's going to turn out to be.
Yeah.
What did you think of his performance as Batman and as Bruce Wayne and as just encompassing the whole character on its own?
A. He's an A. He's not an A plus, but I would love to see more. His Batman was probably closer to an A plus. His Bruce Wayne is an A. I am not one of those people that was affected by, oh, he's so brooding, he's so depressed. I love depressed. I love brooding. Give me Kurt Cobain vibes all day if you want. I loved it. But I think for this movie, it works. I would like to see his character expand a little bit more, be a little bit more three-dimensional. I feel like it was a little bit too much two-dimensional. Like I felt like the Batman weight was being carried over onto the Bruce Wayne weight, right?
Yeah, it was hard to draw the line like between Bruce Wayne and Batman, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
every time you would see him as Bruce Wayne, like how he would be acting, how he would be like monitoring things and analyzing stuff. It was again from a Batman perspective, and we get that.
Yeah.
But I think it was just lacking that billionaire playboy
think-
Bruce Wayne element.
You're very right. And I think that has to do with how, because he's still a new Batman, he doesn't understand the duality of his character right now. At the same time, he literally does not give a shit. Like he was like Alfred was like, oh, there's investors or accountants coming in tomorrow morning, and he's like, I don't give a shit. So he's not in that headspace to be Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. So I mean, I think he needs to realize that as part of his parents' legacy is it has to do with him being Bruce Wayne, the
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne of Gotham City. And what he was
Prince of
thinking right
Gotham, yeah.
now, what he was thinking right now is that him being the vigilante, the mass vigilante, and saving the people of Gotham and keeping crime away is how he pays homage to his parents' legacy.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the accountant scene. We found out later in the movie that the Riddler is actually an accountant. He works at, I don't think they said KPMG, but they said something very similar.
Yeah.
Trying to make a replica.
Yeah, difference. They
So
didn't want to get
he
sued
was
by
an
KPMG.
accountant working at the Big Four company, and
He turned into the
eventually
Riddler.
turned into the Riddler. My accountant friends, I hope you guys are doing okay. Check up on your friends who are in the Big Four. Please.
They're one bad day away
Yeah.
from turning into serial killers.
Yeah. So, but again, they mentioned accountants in the beginning, how the
Yeah.
accountants wanted to meet Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
And I think it was probably him to discuss maybe parts of the fund.
That's a good tie-in. Like you were probably the only person who probably caught on that. I didn't catch up on that. Because when they disclosed his profession and you were like, bro, he's an accountant. And then you're like, yo, what if he was coming to meet him in the beginning and he like blew him off? But I think the accountants did come in the beginning and he did meet them, did he not? Because he was dressed up and he was sitting on the table with Alfred and they were having a conversation, and then that woman comes in. She's like, "Oh, that."
I mean, technically, even if it did show up, Bruce Wayne wouldn't have known, right? Because he's masked.
True.
Only the Riddler knows who Batman is, but Batman doesn't know who the Riddler was at the time.
True. I liked how maniacal the Riddler was. Like he was clearly unhinged. Like even in the videos, he was just talking softly, and then he would start yelling, and then he would start like being this huge bombastic character, and then he would become small again. Same thing with Behind the Glass.
That was a very creepy scene behind the glass,
because that's
like
how
he's talking and then he's like almost singing, and then he's talking and then he's like yelling, and it's quite psychotic as he should be.
because he's playing a serial killer who's like literally demented. He's not. He has visions of grandeur. He's trying to be like larger than life. He the best thing about this villain that I enjoyed was that he thinks he's doing a good job. He thinks he's making the city better, which in his own right, these are the people who are corrupted. These are the people who are sitting in Falcone's pocket, which we didn't even talk about John Turturro's Falcone yet, which was amazing. Major Godfather vibes, because he was talking all like, murmury and like, hey, yeah, I did that for your father, like all that stuff, which I loved again. Like he's just like done. And if Bruce Wayne's answer was to become the Batman, his answer was become the Riddler.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it was very well executed. I wish there was just a little bit more. His plan, I didn't want his plan to be what it was. I thought it was a bit underwhelming. But maybe if I see it a couple more times, I'd understand what he was. Because again, this is a big, huge, chunky movie to take in at once.
I didn't buy a lot of the last plan. It's like, yeah, okay, I understand what you're trying to do. You're trying to be a Batman's partner, trying to expose these people who are doing corrupt activities under the table in Gotham City. And in the end, you realize there's no hope for the city, and then you're like, okay, what? Let's just blow it up. Let's flood it. Like, is that the answer to it?
Yeah, to him. And it wasn't the whole city that he was flooding up, though. But let's be very clear. He was only flooding the downtown parts, the business financial districts. Like if you see the plan where he's from in the room where he unravels the carpet, you see it from the top. It's not the entire city. It's just the middle part, which is the downtown core, right? That's what he's flooding. And because the poor people live on the outskirts, man. Like they live in Scarborough. They don't live in, they're not living in where does I forgot where Nazar lives, but I was gonna drop that name. But they're not living near
Shooter Street.
Yeah, Shooter Street or whatever, like Dundas Square. They're living in Scarborough, bro. They're in Mississauga. They're in Gene and Finch. That's not getting flooded. Shooter Street is getting flooded, and Air Canada Center is getting flooded.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. I like that dichotomy. I just wish that it wasn't that way that he did it. Maybe if I see it a couple more times, I'd see more of the nuance in it, right? There was a lot of nuance up until that point, and then it was just like, oh, by the way, I'm gonna kill the city and I'm gonna burn everyone, and like everyone's gonna drown. I liked how the mayor got shot because she was being super altruistic. She was like, "Oh, you guys are not ready to take the right step, and I'm gonna go do this," and then she gets shot. I'm like, "Well, buddy, this was Gotham,
Yeah.
right? This is what happens here. This is the city that like is
I think
run by
that was also
Falcone."
part of, you know, the one person who's actually trying to make a change.
Yeah, give me
They won't let them make that
very
change
Harvey Dent
anymore.
vibes
Yeah.
for that girl. I wonder what she's going to become, if she's going to become like a bad girl or anything, or maybe they're just going to leave it to her as the mayor. Final thoughts on the reveal that actually everyone's in Carmine Falcone's, or as I thought he was portrayed as. In my head, it was very Altafo Sen vibes. Shout out to my Karachi people.
Bro, we
out
gotta
there.
go back to Karachi too.
That's fine. It's all good. Like he doesn't have that grip anymore. But like it was very like, I am a political gangster leader here, and I call the shots. You think you call the shots, but that's funny because that's not what it is.
Yeah.
And it gave me very Godfather vibes. It gave me a lot of like, you know, that
You
kind of
you
stuff.
haven't seen Mirzapur, but
I've
a-
seen some scenes.
a lot of that is also that cartel,
Yeah.
that gangster hood vibes that you get.
He was the thing about Carmine Falcone's character that I liked was that he was strong enough mentally to get into Bruce Wayne's head. Now the argument could also be that Bruce Wayne was mentally weak enough to let Carmine Falcone get into his head. True, but he was playing around with Bruce, man, and it
Yeah,
worked.
it worked. You saw for a moment where where he goes back to Alfred and he speaks to him about his dad and how he was convinced by Falcone that his father wasn't a good man, that
Yeah.
he did corrupt things, that he tried to have that journalist who had, you know, his dirty laundry killed off.
Yeah,
And for a second, Batman was questioning his existence,
Bro,
what
and
he was doing, why he was doing
that's
it.
the thing, right? So in that scene, you saw the pain in Robert Pattinson's face. I was like, this is where he's shining. Just that one scene where there's disgust on his face. Like, Alfred, you knew and you didn't tell me. And that scene was so heartbreaking for me. Just the nuances in that scene, man. That's what happens when you put like two Oscar caliber actors in like great character roles. Alfred wakes up from his coma. He smiles to see Bruce, and Bruce is disgusted. He's like, "You piece of shit.
Yeah.
You had me set up." And then you just see the smile like drop from Alfred's face, and he's like, "Bro, you are out of line here. I'm out of line. You're out of line." It was just lovely to see that. Are you excited for future installments if they occur?
Yes, I am. And like right before the movie started, they did show a lot of what's happening in the DC universe.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to see what they have in store.
Did they get you pumped again for like the stuff that's coming in the future?
They did, and I will pay my hard-earned money to go and watch more DC movies.
Okay.
Um,
Black Adam next.
Yes, I mean, I'm hoping that, you know, they continue with this, because they do have the great characters. They just need a bit more planning and better execution. This wasn't that bad.
Give me a number.
For this movie, out of 10,
Be honest. Like, you're probably gonna catch flack for this anyways from the Bat fans.
yeah, I'll
So just be
probably
honest.
give this like a 7 or 7.5
Okay.
out of 10.
I will give this probably I'm leaning towards an 8.5, but if I see it a couple more times, it might go like to an 8.25 or 8.75. I'm not sure yet. It's an A for me, not an A plus. Out of the theater, I can willingly tell you that the mantle of the greatest Batman movie is still held by The Dark Knight.
Thank you, Christopher Nolan.
Thank you, Christopher Nolan, for setting that benchmark. But this is very close. This is probably like 2 or 3 for me right now. The beauty about The Dark Knight is, and that trilogy, is that we have a decade now to like soak it in and have it sit with us. I think if you give this movie, and if there's a trilogy that comes after this, like this whole, if you let it sink in for a bit, you might like it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited for Robert Pattinson
Yeah,
to grow
great
in this
work,
role.
man.
If he has more movies coming up for this, which I'm hoping that that he does.
Final, just before we're going, I just want you to say a couple of things about the score.
Great things. Only great things to say. The score was like always there, right? Because we talked about how there's not a lot of dialogue from Batman.
So you have to fill it. You have to. The score has to be.
The
a part of
score
movie.
is it's there.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
The score. right? It scares you,
The-
but it's so catchy at the same time. It's stuck in my head.
It is. The trumpets. They're blowing,
Yeah,
and then they have like a soft tone for that. I
Very Darth Vader-ish almost. Like I like it. I like it. Good work by Michael Giacchino. I think that's his name. Just great movie, man. Like if you guys have a chance to see it this weekend, definitely check it out. Let us know what you think about it. Let us know if you liked it. If you were on my end, which was like a solid A. If you were on Bashaar's end, which was like a B-ish,
B minus.
B minus, which is fine as well. Like to each their own. We especially got Batman shirts for this movie to go see it in theaters. Also to wear it on the podcast. You never had a Batman shirt before.
I did, and I was actually just
And I
planning
think-
to like wear all black.
But I think this really suits you. This
Thank
is your
you.
new look. You could rock that.
Thank you. I just need to get better at solving riddles.
I feel like everyone should have at least one Batman shirt and one Beetle shirt in their life. Those are like quintessential for like normal tees. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely.
I have like 3 Beetle
Get
shirts.
one John Mayer shirt too while you're at it.
I put it in the
Wild blue.
wild blue. That's actually quite appropriate. Anyways, that was my final thoughts. Everybody go check it out. Go check the Batman out. Watch it multiple times. Make this a hit so that we can get a sequel and then we can get a trilogy. My name is Nazar Sayed. It's 12:15. We have to go watch the Pakistan Australia series. The toss are probably already done, and we have to go check that out. So you gotta excuse us. My name is Nazar Sayed,
My name is Bashaar.
and we'll catch you on the flippity flip. Thank you guys very much. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you so much.